All right, let's jump right in. Today we're cracking open a health mystery that pretty much turns everything we've been told about weight management completely on its head. We're going to follow the clues in a case where the real enemy isn't what's on your plate, but the sun in the sky. Or, the lack of it.
So here's the puzzle that started this whole thing. How can you go on one of those all-inclusive holidays, with endless food and doing pretty much nothing, and somehow come back later? But then back home, even when you're being super careful, the scale just tells a completely different story. It's a riddle that just begs for an answer, right?
Okay, so let's get into the case file. This whole investigation, this kind of metabolic detective story, it all kicked off with a huge move. Just imagine packing up your life from a sunny spot at 28 degrees south and landing in a gray, chilly place at 53 degrees north. I mean, that's not just changing your address, it's a massive shock to your body's entire system. Now, any good detective story starts by lining up the usual suspects. And when it comes to weight gain, we all know who they are, don't we? They're the bad guys in every diet book and health article. But in this case, do they actually have an alibi? Let's find out.
First up in the interrogation room is public enemy number one, the one we've all been taught to fear, the simple calorie. For decades, it's been the first thing we blame for a tighter waistband. The logic seems so straightforward, doesn't it?
But here's the thing. As this New Scientist article points out, that old calories in, calories out idea is really starting to fall apart. Science is showing us that our bodies are way more complicated than that. This whole idea that a calorie is just a calorie, it doesn't really hold up to scrutiny anymore.
And check this out. This is actual evidence from the case files. Here's a food log from way back in 2010. A breakfast with 633 calories. You'd think that would power you up for the day, right? But the logged reaction? Tepid and sleepy. This is basically Exhibit A that the kind of food you eat and how your own body reacts is way more important than just a number.
All right, so if the calorie count is off the hook, then it's got to be this next suspect. That nightly glass of wine, that little ritual. I mean, everyone says if you want to lose weight, ditch the alcohol. It seems like an open and shut case for sure. But nope, the detective's own notes are crystal clear on this one. Even going completely dry for a whole month didn't make the scale budge, not by a single gram. So, suspect number two, totally innocent. We've got to keep looking.
Okay, this is the point where the investigation takes a wild turn. After clearing the obvious dietary suspects, our detective starts to think, maybe the most important clues aren't on the dinner plate at all. Maybe they're on a map. Maybe the problem isn't internal. Maybe it's external.
And boom, there it is, the first huge breakthrough. Just look at this data. The last day of 2025, weight is 77 kilos. Now fast forward less than 3 months to the end of March 2026, and it's jumped to 80.6 kilos. That is a major change in a really short amount of time.
Let that number sink in for a second. 3.6 kilograms. That's almost 8 pounds. This isn't some slow creep over a year. This is a rapid-fire change. This wasn't a lifestyle choice. It felt more like a metabolic event. And that leads to one massive question.
Seriously, what on earth could have happened in that specific time frame to cause a shift like that? The diet was the same. The wine was already cleared. So what changed? What was different about the world during those 38 days?
And there's our answer, the plot twist. The trigger wasn't a new food, it wasn't a bad habit, it was the environment itself. 38 straight days of relentless sun-blocking rain. The enemy wasn't calories, it was a serious, sustained lack of sunlight. This changes the entire investigation.
So now that we've got our prime suspect, it's time to get a confession. We're bringing in our expert witness, hard science, to explain exactly how a cold, distant sun can secretly mess with your metabolism and basically hold your health hostage.
It all boils down to this concept called the solar zenith angle, or SZA. Now, that sounds complicated, but all it really means is how high the sun is in the sky. If you're near the equator, it's pretty much right over your head. But the further north you go, especially in winter, the lower it is, and its rays have to fight through a lot more atmosphere to get to you. And this just shows you the real-world effect perfectly. A study looked at 2 cities in Argentina. It found that skin could produce over 36% more vitamin D3 in Buenos Aires, which is closer to the equator, than in Ushuaia, which is way, way down south. Your latitude isn't just a line on a map. It's sending a critical message to your body's chemistry. So here's the bottom line. If you live somewhere like Amsterdam, at a high latitude, your skin physically cannot make any vitamin D from sunlight in the winter months. And that lack of UVB light,
It's like a huge signal to this ancient survival switch in your body. It basically screams, winter is here, food is going to be scarce, and your body goes into a kind of hibernation mode. Store fat, save energy, get ready for a famine that, well, in our world, never actually comes.
So, mystery solved. We've got our culprit. But a good detective story doesn't just end with the arrest, right? We need to know how to stop the crime from happening again. And the solution, believe it or not, came from an AI assistant that was analyzing all this data. And it is definitely not what you'd expect.
The fix isn't to just try harder with the old, busted methods. It's not about eating less. It's not about punishing yourself at the gym. The whole strategy is to adapt. It's about sending smarter signals to your body to tell that ancient, panicked part of your brain that everything is okay, winter is not coming, you're safe.
And the instructions that the AI came up with they're so simple and kind of wonderfully weird. Step 1. Get photons. Walk outside in the first hour after you wake up and just let some daylight hit your eyes. That helps set your internal clock. Step 2. Keep your core warm. Seriously, wear a vest even when you're sleeping. This tricks your body into thinking it's warmer than it is, so it doesn't feel the need to store so much insulating fat. It's basically metabolic trickery.
And that brings our whole investigation to a close. But it opens up a much, much bigger question. After looking at all this evidence, we're left with this one final, really provocative thought. What if we've been looking in all the wrong places? What if the biggest factor in your health isn't on your plate at all, but right outside your window?